post video today. This one is showing off the 3 new wreath die sets from Tonic. They are called Falling Snow Wreath, which is the snowflake one, the Boughs of Holly wreath, which is this one with the bow in the centre, and then we have the Under the Mistletoe wreath, which has got a gorgeous Christmas rose inside it. I'm just filming this whilst I have some samples to show you as well, and I've just put the die sets on some magnetic sheets so it's easy for me to show you what they look like. They're all the same concept of having a larger wreath, a smaller wreath, and some sort of element filling up the last bit of space in the middle that works really nicely on your cards. And they're really clever the way they've done them. They make them really versatile. These two are similar and then this one's slightly different, but I think they're a really cool die set to have because you can use the same die set on multiple Christmas cards, but the way you can use it differently, it'll be difficult to tell that you've used the same die, if that makes sense. So this one is the Falling Snow one, and you can see here you have a small wreath in the centre. You have a small wreath in the centre of all of them, and the small wreath cuts out exactly as you see it. It all just has all of its cutting edges and gives you a gorgeous little small wreath that is perfect for small cards like I usually like to make, and also I think they work really well with the adorables, and I've got a little card using the mistletoe wreath too. But they sort of give you a nice little frame to have a little cute animal stamped in the background, or you can just use the robin that comes in this one. Again, you have the robin that's inside, and all of the elements that are inside them is like a Christmas rose, a robin, and then a bow to go on the wreath. They all have separate outside to their insides, so they're a proper verso die. So this would just cut into the card, and then this would cut the robin out of the card. And also the silhouette of that robin just looks really gorgeous by itself, without even having the detailed layer on it. It looks really nice by itself. So that's the same concept across them all. The middle one is like that. But then for these two, the outside ones, you can cut them both together, which gives you a gorgeous snowflake wreath or a gorgeous like branchy mistletoe kind of a wreath. But you can cut them both separately, both pieces separately. So you can just cut a big mat that has that sort of snowflake detail all the way around the edge of it, or you can cut a big mat that has the mistletoe detail around the edge of it, which I think I did on one of my cards. Or you can go to the next size down, and this will cut you an aperture out that then has that detail all the way around the edge of the aperture. So I've actually used this one to create a shaker card, and then I've cut both of them together and layered it back on top but offset, so you've got one colour of snowflake showing underneath and another colour on the wreath as well. And you might be thinking, how on earth am I going to get that to line up and match the outside edge? You know, how am I going to do that without having to mark it with a pen or something? Well, Tonic have thought of that, because on this outside die right here, this snowflake, you can see there's a little notch just there in the metal, and on the inside die there is a little pointy bit, and you see they both line up perfectly. So when those two are together, the wreath is exactly how it is designed to be. So you cut them both together and the snowflakes continue across both sides of the wreath, which is perfect. So it's really easy to line up. Obviously you don't have to line it up. You could do them offset if you wanted to. It's completely up to you, but they have done that so that you can easily line the dies up to get it as it was supposed to be designed. And then with the mistletoe one, you don't have the little notch in it, but the inside shape is so random that it's really easy to find the match for it. So if you just think this bit looks like it's sticking out really far here, if I zoom in, this bit looks like it's sticking out really far here, so then you just look at this one and go, oh, this bit looks like it's these two bits are dipping in really far, so then you just sort of place it down and figure out which way round it goes as well. So they're really easy to put back together to get them to be perfect. You can see there it's such an odd shape that there is only one way that it will go in. And then you have in the mistletoe one, you've got the gorgeous small wreath as well. And then the other die set is slightly different. This one is the Boughs of Holly. It's similar to some other wreath dies that we've had from Tonic in the past, where you get this separate outside edge and inside edge as well. And then you may be thinking, how on earth am I going to get them in the right places for it to match up and everything? But again, the outside pattern is so like you can tell where the repeats are. It's almost exactly repeating, but I found one place that's really easy to get it to line up. You see here opposite each other there's these two berries. There's like a round one and then one that's hiding behind it, and they're exactly opposite each other on the wreath. If you then look on the outside edge, you see opposite each other there are two that are more rounded. If you try that, okay, that's the right way, but if there's a wrong way and a right way, if you try it this way you think, oh yeah, that matches, but look here, there's one tiny little bit that's not right, so there is only one way round that the outside one goes. So here that cutting edge is cutting off that bit of holly because it should be the other way around, but that's the only difference in them, just that one piece of holly. But if you go for those berries that are opposite each other, one, it makes it easy to line up the die like this to get them to cut together, but two, it makes it really easy when you're sticking multiple ones on top of each other. You can look for those berries and then line them up that way to get it perfect as well. And then the inside one is actually symmetrical, and you see there's these two weird shaped bits on both sides that are opposite each other. So this one is actually symmetrical, so it can go in two ways round, but you'll notice the bits where it goes in, they're really obvious. It's really obvious where to put it. So, and that weird bit that I just showed you kind of lines up with the berry as well. So yeah, I just wanted to show you the tricks of how to get it to line up really easily, because to begin with I was like, how on earth are they going to go back together? And then I noticed the little notch on this one, which makes it so easy. And then this one's really simple, the mistletoe one, because it's such an odd shape. It's really easy to get it to go back together. So they are the die sets. I'm not sure exactly what the original packaging will look like, but I'm guessing it's just their usual sort of orange on orange kind of a look, because I'm presuming these will be in the essentials range, which is the orange range. So I'll get my samples to show you as well. So I think I have like 6 here. Oh, actually, also I wanted to show you this. With the snowflake frame, one of the cards that I've done, I had these bits left over. So I just wanted to show how you can, like this is the, like what would be considered the waste, because it's the negative of the snowflakes, not really showing you actual snowflakes. But if you were clever with your die cutting and maybe cut this with a square stitch die or something, you could then lay these ones back inside each other and cut one of the proper wreaths and like paper piece it back in, or put double-sided adhesive behind it, put like a white die cut one in, and then fill the rest with silver glitter or something like that. And you can even do it for the smallest one too, because the small wreath has left that in the centre of it from the one that I was cutting. So you can even use all of the leftover pieces. And also, if you want to use the big wreath and the small wreath on your card in the same card, you can cut the small one obviously out of the centre of the big one, because it comes inside it in the die set. So you know, you're never going to waste this centrepiece of card that comes out of the wreath, because you can use it for the smaller one. So I just wanted to show that as well. Then yeah, let's get on to the samples. So this was one of my cards I did with the Merry and Bright Colour Trend collection, but I had used the Christmas Rose from the, which set is it in? Is it the Mistletoe set? Yeah, the Mistletoe wreath set. I made myself a foam stamp out of it, and I used it to stamp some embellishment mousse in the background on this card. So I just wanted to throw that one in as an extra sample. Then I did this one. I just had to use it with some of the adorable stamps, because I thought that just works so perfectly. And what a simple Christmas card as well, just a few little coloured characters and the gorgeous little wreath. And I used some Cloud 9 Dream Drops just as the little berries on the mistletoe, and in the background you can kind of see it, I used that same foam stamp that I made out of the Christmas rose, and I stamped that with Dream Drops in the background as well, just to give some really subtle background interest. And then the gold splats are some of the Midas Touch pen as well. So that's a cute little card. So this is my usual size of card, but they wanted me to make some bigger cards for this release, so I've gone out of my comfort zone a bit and made some bigger cards than I usually do. So this one's a DL one using the Boughs of Holly wreath, and all of the sentiment, well, pretty much all the sentiments I've used are the Christmas ones that came out last year from Tonic. So they're these gorgeous larger sentiments, and they go really well with these dies. And this one says "Have a holly jolly Christmas," so obviously I had to use the holly on it. And I actually cut I cut the small wreath twice and the big wreath once, and I actually cut them all 3 times. So I stacked up 2 layers of Craft Perfect, just their like textured card, and then on this one I've put a pearlescent gold, and on these ones I've put a gold glitter, and then I've actually intertwined them. You can see here this wreath goes behind here, but it comes in front here, and I did the same on both sides to create some kind of longer design for a DL card. And in the background I just took my antique linen distress ink pad and just swiped it across, and then the splats there are actually the Golden Sparkler Nouveau Shimmer Powder, and I just mixed some with water and then splattered it on with a paintbrush as well. So that's quite a simple card, but just showing how you can make a longer design out of something, because those a wreath is kind of more, makes you want to think of making a square card, but you don't have to put it on a square card. You can have part of the wreath on a smaller card, or again the small ones fit really nicely on a smaller card as well, or you can put multiples of the different ones together to create a longer design for a card as well. So that's the DL one. Then I did a couple of 5x7 ones. I really like how this one came out. It's really like clean and simple, just using red, green and white. So for the background, I trimmed down a piece of white card and used one of Tonic's really old embossing folders to give that sort of stripy effect. And then I cut one full wreath of the holly, Boughs of Holly wreath out of white card, and then I stuck different parts of it on in different places just to add some extra interest to the background. Then for the main focal wreath I cut 2 of the small holly wreaths and offset them a bit, and then I used some Ruby Slippers glitter drops as the berries as well, and I sort of altered the bow a little bit. It looks a little bit different to that. I snipped off these 2 back pieces and brought them down a bit, so it kind of gives more of a 3D illusion, because part of it is actually in front of the other snipped off part. And then I added one of the Cherry Heart Nouveau gems onto there as well to give something extra to it. And then this is just one of those Christmas sentiments from last year again that I did white and red and shadowed them together. But I think that's a really nice way of using them, and you can do that for all 3 of the different sets. All of them would work the same way to create different cards. Obviously you could switch out the sentiment for the snowflakes, because well I suppose you could keep the holly with the snowflakes, but you might want to switch it out. But yeah, it would work with all 3 of the sets. Then I also did this one, which I went more watercoloury for this one, using the Aquaflows to add some colour to it. And I used a couple of colours of pearlescent cards. So for this one I used the Mistletoe wreath and I cut it 3 times. I used the, I think it's called Soft Mint pearlescent card that just came out in the Woodland Walk. Then the other one is Blue Frost that came out in the Ocean Air collection last year. And then the brown one was actually one that I just watered down some, what's it called? Iced Americano Nouveau glitter marker. I watered it down and then like watercoloured it onto the brown one that I sort of hid underneath, just so it ties the brown of the robin into everything. Then for the background I just did a messy watercolour background using some fresh green Nouveau Aquaflow and some of the brand new Honeydew embellishment mousse from the Merry and Bright collection. And then I cut the robin and the roses out. I did them out of white card, and I cut the intricate one and the solid one as well and layered them on top of each other, and then again used Aquaflows. For the peachy colours I was using Just Peachy, which was from the Dream in Colour collection, and then Matador Red, which was from the Festive Season collection of Nuva Aquaflows from last year. And then for the robin, I used again that Matador Red, and I also used the Rustic Oak one as well, just to give the robin some colour. And then I just added a few little drops for the centres of the little Christmas roses. I splattered some of that glitter marker in the background as well, just to tie some more brown in. And again, I used the leftovers of all these Aquaflows to colour a sentiment, and then I added another brown one underneath it just to make it stand out nicely as well. So that was that card. Then I've done two enormous ones. One's an 8x8 and one's a 7.5-inch square. I wanted to make a shaker card. Obviously I had to make a shaker card because I love making shakers, and I used the snowflake one for this. So I decided to, like I was saying just now, you can see there's a light blue card behind here. So I cut the inside of the snowflake frame from this this blue card to give me an aperture, and then I created my shaker around that, but then I cut both of the frame ones together to create the actual wreath in the Silky Sky satin cardstock, and then I added that back over the top but at a different orientation to the way round I'd cut it into the blue card, so you get the metallic and then the blue showing underneath it as well. And then inside the shaker I used some clear micro beads, some silver snowflakes that came out in the Let It Snow collection of pure sheen glitters and confettis and sequins, and I also used the what they were called, rainbow quartz triangles, I think, from the Dream in Colour collection as well. And then I wanted to offset the smaller frame just to sort of highlight the sentiment. So I cut that out of Silver Mirror card, and then I used one of the cross-stitch circles to cut out some vellum to layer behind it to sort of diffuse it. And then I used one of Tonic's older Christmas sentiments called Let It Snow, and I actually shadowed that one twice, so it goes from dark blue to white to the same mirror card as I used for the wreath as well. And then I just finished off with a few extra of those little sequins, some little snowflake die cuts. This snowflake's from the snowflake trios that came out for 2018, and the two tiny snowflakes are from the brand new, it was the Winter Wonderland large Christmas gift box die set. It had these cute little snowflakes in, and then the Nuvo drops I've put in the centres of the snowflakes is the Blue Babe one, which I think was with the Ocean Air collection from 2018 as well. And then in the background I've used one of their old mandala stamps and a sentiment that says "May your whole day sparkle," and embossed them with the Shimmering Pearl Nuvo embossing powder as well. So that's that one, which is a really big card for me. You can see that hardly even fits in the frame. Really enormous card, but I do really like how it came out. I really struggle with making large cards because I'm always wanting to add more and more and more. Like, I'd created the whole middle section and I just had it on the plain white card blank, and I was like, no, it needs something else, it looks too plain. So then I had to add heat embossing, and then I was scattering on other bits and pieces, but I do like how it came out in the end. So that's that one. And then the final one that I did, another really large one. This one's actually 8x8. And I wanted to use the largest of the Baroque squares that came out. I think they came out with the Milestone dies that Tonic brought out. And I just thought it would go really nicely with it. And then I put the wreath in the centre, but for this one, this is the one I said where I used the solid of the wreath as well. So I cut it twice from different greens using both of the wreaths together. One is a green mirror card, and the other one is one of their cotton papers that had a texture on it as well, so you can still see some of that texture even though it's been die cut. And then the base one is cut from some taupe card, and it's actually just the outside die, so that's why it's solid in the centre, because I just used the outside, and then I layered the other two on top, so at the edges you can still see some of that taupe one showing through, because I did them all offset, so it makes it look like a fuller wreath. Then I also added in two more taupe die cuts of the smaller wreath, and I just put them so they go they go on top of the solid one but underneath the two green ones, just to add some extra interest to that large solid portion behind. Then this is one of the another one of the cotton papers. I think it's called like Square Sequins or something. I think it was in the Arabian Nights Craft Perfect colour trend. And then I also used the little hearts that fell out of the Baroque frame to add as little embellishments. And to finish it off, I wanted to tie the green in a bit more because it was all looking like the only green was the wreath. So I took the olive branch, I'm pretty sure, yeah, olive branch, Nouveau drops, and I put them all the way around the edge where I could fit them. I missed out over here because the wreath was overlapping. And then before they dried, I took a little bit of prickly pear glitter and sprinkled it on. So some of them are really glittery, some of them have just got little speckles of glitter on them, just to add a little bit of sparkle, and you know, I just thought it looked really nice. And then this is again is another one of the large Christmas sentiments that came out for 2018 from Tonic as well. It says from our home to yours. I thought that just went really perfectly. I really like how that one came out too as well. So I mean, if you struggle with large cards or smaller cards, just give yourself a challenge of making a larger card. Like, start with something that's much larger than you would usually work with. So for example, this square die set from Tonic, have I still got it here? Yes. See, before when I've made a card with this die set, I went for this size, I think, the last time I used one. So all I did was just decide on a larger thing to start off with and then built down onto it, rather than starting with something small. I feel like when I start with something small, it's difficult to build up the layers behind it, but if I start with something larger, I find it easier to make a bigger card. You might find it different to that, but that's just what I found with making these large cards. I do occasionally do a large card, but I still prefer my sort of A6 or American A2 kind of a size of card. But these wreaths work perfectly for large cards or for small cards too, which is great because you can really just use that small little wreath. I mean, look at the size comparison. This is my favourite size of a card. Look how big that one is. But you could even actually, you could use the small mistletoe wreath and create something similar to this one on a smaller scale using the smaller frame from this die set as well. That would actually work and make a smaller card too. You wouldn't have the solid backing behind, but you could easily cut that with a circle die. So you could give it a go. If you like this design but you'd rather make smaller cards, you could try and give it a go on a smaller square card and see if you can get a similar effect. But yeah, they're just the ones that I did with this die set, and then obviously that one where I was just making one of the dies into a stamp as well. And don't forget, you can make all of them into stamps. You could make, this would make a brilliant stamp. Any of the smaller little wreaths would be perfect for stamps too. Like even something like this one, if you didn't have mirror card, you could make that into a stamp and stamp it and heat emboss it as well. So there's lots of different ways you can use them. So I hope this gave you a little bit of inspiration on what you can do with them. Yeah, so thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!